I'm Ben Crane, 52 years old. I knew the company was finished the moment Brittany Hyen walked into her first all-hands meeting talking about disrupting legacy thinking. This woman, Arthur's granddaughter, fresh off a Wharton MBA, strutted in like she'd invented business itself. Not earned it through 20 years of building systems from scratch. Just inherited it because she shared DNA with the man who used to call me the backbone of this operation. 20 years at High-End Solutions. I joined in 2004 when our servers were held together with prayer and our IT infrastructure fit on a folding table. Before that, 10 years Navy logistics. You learn fast in the military. If you screw up, people don't eat and missions fail. You learn to document everything, trust processes, and never assume anything. Arthur built this company from a garage in 1998. Supply chain software, logistics optimization, the boring infrastructure that makes everything else possible. He used to say, Ben, systems are memory. If you don't document it, it never happened. So I documented everything. Every process had a paper trail, a timestamp, and a backup. When you've been somewhere long enough, you stop needing a title to know your value. I was Chief Operations Officer, the person you called when procurement stalled, when compliance panicked, or when legal couldn't find the right contract version. Then Arthur got sick. 18 months of decline. The board panicked and handed control to Brittany. She was 29, barely 2 years out of business school. Her biggest accomplishment was a summer internship where she'd learned to make PowerPoints with synergy on every slide. But she was family, and panicked boards pick blood over brains. From day one, I was on borrowed time. She gave a speech about modernizing while scrolling Instagram the whole time. Never looked me in the eye. I started noticing things. Calendar permissions restricted. People I'd mentored suddenly CC'd me instead of including me. I overheard her tell HR I represented legacy overhead. Here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you time. Quiet time. The kind where you revisit old files, pull up dusty PDFs from 2009, and remember every conversation that mattered. Arthur and I had an understanding. He trusted me to protect the company's foundation. Buried in those foundations were clauses with very sharp teeth. I didn't fight the changes. I watched her replace our VP of Finance, 25 years of experience, with a 26-year-old financial wellness consultant. I smiled when she brought in Austin to be Chief Strategy Officer, despite the fact that his only strategy seemed to be agreeing with everything Brittany said. But I also quietly verified my notary license was current, dusted off a 19-page document signed by Arthur in 2009, and started logging every interaction into a private email thread titled Documentation. In the Navy, we had a saying, hope isn't a strategy, preparation is. I knew the final blow would come, suddenly. Brittany didn't do confrontation. She was the schedule a meeting at 7:30 a.m. and pretend it's routine type. So I waited. And while I waited, I made sure every piece of paper she'd never read was in order. Every clause she would have mocked had been verified. Every signature was notarized. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preserving structure, because here's what they don't teach you in business school. The person who understands the foundation holds the power to shake the entire house. It happened at 7:59 a.m. on a Tuesday. Only someone who'd never worked a real job picks a time before most people have poured their first coffee. I was locking my car when the meeting invite popped up. Subject, quick sync. Location, HR conference room. B sent at 7:56. No context, no prep. Brittany was already there, sitting cross-legged like she was at Starbucks, sipping something green from a mason jar. Angela Brooks, our HR director, sat beside her looking miserable. Brittany didn't waste time. Ben, she said, like my name tasted wrong. We've been evaluating our organizational structure, and after some difficult discussions, we've decided to sunset your role as part of our modernization initiative. Sunset. Like I was spam she was emptying. We really appreciate your historical contributions, she continued. But we need adaptive leadership. Your approach reads very 2005, if I'm being honest. There it was. The ageism wrapped in corporate speak. I let the silence sit, then asked, what's the severance timeline? She blinked, probably expecting emotion. HR will handle details. This is effective immediately. I stood up, picked up my jacket, and walked out. The elevator took forever. Everyone pretended to stare at their screens. I got to my car. The clock had started. I deposited the severance check immediately. That timestamp mattered. Next stop, Patricia's office. My attorney. She'd worked with Arthur back in the day. The letter had been ready for 2 weeks. Just needed a signature. Patricia raised an eyebrow when she reviewed the clause citation. You really want to do this? It's not about what I want, I said. It's about what the charter requires. She nodded, signed, stamped, and slid it back. I called the courier service. Same-day delivery, signature required from Lisa Holbrook, General Counsel. No substitutes. I didn't go home. I sat in my car outside a coffee shop across from the office and watched. Watched Brittany leave an hour later, laughing with Austin about something. What she didn't know was that the envelope being delivered contained more than complaints. It was a formal notice of termination acknowledgement, executed per Section 4.8 of the 2009 Operational Reversion Agreement, a clause so old that most of legal had forgotten it existed. But I hadn't. I'd helped Arthur draft it. Back in 2009, Arthur was paranoid, terrified the board might someday pick family over competence. So we wrote safeguards, legal tripwires buried deep. The clause was simple. If I were ever terminated without full board approval and proper severance compliance, operational control would revert within 72 hours to the Founders Trust and to the appointee listed therein. Brittany had just pulled the pin on her own grenade. She didn't know it yet. The best part came an hour later. Brittany posted in the company Slack a GIF of a broom sweeping with the caption, "Making room for innovation." Someone reacted with a fire emoji. Another added clapping hands. I know because 3 people forwarded it to me. Loyalty doesn't always fade just because you're off payroll. From her office, used to be a supply closet until she remodeled it with mid-century minimalist vibes, she celebrated like she'd solved world hunger, ordered catered lunch for the team, poke bowls and kombucha, toasted my graceful transition while talking about removing friction. I wasn't surprised. Brittany had the emotional depth of a LinkedIn post. What I was counting on was her arrogance. The same arrogance that made her ignore the legal memo that hit her desk that afternoon. Probably went like this. Hey, legal flagged something about Ben's termination. Old governance stuff. Might need review? Brittany waved it off. We archived that clause years ago. Let them chase paper. But we hadn't archived it. I'd made sure of that. Every 3 years during compliance audits, I'd ensured the reversion clause stayed active. Recertified, renotarized. I had the PDF trail to prove it. Most of the current team wasn't around in 2009. They didn't know Arthur's paranoia ran deep. They didn't know I was the one who'd helped design that clause. Meanwhile, the courier crossed the city. The envelope contained my notarized execution notice, cross-referenced with charter documents, and Arthur's trust appointment directive. Dated, signed, filed with the state, unaltered. The language was precise. In the event that Lawrence Bennett Crane is involuntarily terminated without documented cause, and if said termination fails to meet severance and board notification standards outlined in Article 7.2, operational oversight shall revert to the Founders Trust within 72 business hours. They had no override. Arthur hadn't signed anything in 9 months. Brittany didn't know the clock was ticking. Didn't know the courier was 3 blocks away when she posted a TikTok from the office balcony, making space for what's next. Didn't know legal was already calling an intern to dig through archived governance binders, the physical ones nobody looked at unless I asked them to. At home, I pulled out a legal pad and wrote a timeline. 7:59 a.m., termination. 8:41 a.m., attorney review complete. 9:15 a.m., courier dispatched. 12:03 p.m., delivered, signed by Lisa Holbrook, paper trail, timestamps, emails, tracking confirmations, all within the window. That evening, 1-line email from Lisa. Please confirm whether you've executed the reversion clause per Article 4.8. I replied, executed, timestamped, and delivered as required. Effective as of today. Signed it regards because I'm a professional. Then I watched the Slack notifications pile up. The whispers had started. By Thursday, 48 hours post-termination, Brittany had already fired 3 more senior people. VP of Vendor Relations, gone. Payroll Systems Manager who'd been there 15 years, out. The woman who'd built our onboarding program, reassigned to nothing. In their places, Brittany's crew. Austin, her consulting buddy who thought supply chain meant Amazon Prime. Taylor, who'd run a brand agency for 18 months and now had VP Customer Experience on LinkedIn. Harper, straight out of MBA school with zero industry knowledge, installed as head of innovation. Inside sources, people who still texted me, sent screenshots. Brittany's Morning Post. Legacy doesn't equal loyalty. We're building a future, not worshiping a past. Someone captioned it, "This is what happens when a TED Talk becomes CEO." From my home office, I watched the leaks roll in. Someone sent me a spreadsheet, projected cash flow for Q4. It had my formulas, my color coding, my notes. Brittany had just slapped a new header on top, optimized by BLH. The woman couldn't format a cell if you paid her in stock options. Then came Friday afternoon. I got an email from Lisa's office. Subject, document review, urgent. Inside, a meeting request for Monday morning, board of directors, full attendance required. The clause had been found. I didn't reply immediately. Let them sit with it over the weekend. 20 years in logistics taught me one thing. Preparation beats reaction every time. By Friday night, word was spreading inside Hyan. Nothing loud, just whispers. Someone from product asking around for a copy of the founder's charter. Someone from legal calling and sick pending document clarification. One IT analyst apparently told Austin the vibes were concerning after being asked to sign off on a platform migration with zero testing. I spent the weekend reviewing my documentation. Every email, every timestamp, every notarized signature. The 2009 clause. Arthur's trust directive. The compliance audit trail showing continuous recertification. Everything was in order. Sunday evening, I got a call from Patricia. "They're scrambling," she said. "Lisa's office called me twice asking about the clause validity." And I told them it's ironclad. Arthur signed it. "You're named in the trust. Board never voted to override. It's active." "Good. Ben, are you sure about this?" "Once they confirm it Monday, there's no going back. I've been debriefed from worse situations. I can handle this." She was quiet for a second. Arthur would be proud. Arthur knew what he was doing when he wrote that clause. I hung up and opened a beer. Not celebration, just acknowledgement. The 72-hour window would close Thursday morning at 8 a.m. By Monday, the board would know. By Tuesday, Brittany would panic. By Wednesday, the lawyers would confirm there was no escape. By Thursday, I'd be sitting in her chair, not because I wanted revenge, because the charter demanded it, because Arthur had built protections into this company's DNA that couldn't be erased by an MBA and an Instagram following. The clock was ticking, and Brittany still thought she was winning. The Monday board meeting was supposed to be routine. Q3 slides, performance metrics, the usual corporate theater. Instead, it turned into the sound of ice cracking. Brittany opened with a standing presentation, literally standing, as if height made her revenue dip look strategic. She wore a blazer and jeans like she thought she was Steve Jobs. "Team," she said, pacing, "we're transforming. No more institutional drag, no more legacy resistance. We're lean, agile, Hyan 2.0. The board members smiled politely. Lisa Holbrook didn't smile. She was flipping through a thick folder like someone looking for a bomb. She stopped halfway through and went completely still. Brittany didn't notice, too busy talking about vertical growth through distributed strategy. Lisa raised a hand. "Sorry to interrupt, but a legal document came in over the weekend, notarized, delivered by courier." Brittany waved dismissively. "If it's from Ben, I already told HR to ignore it." Lisa didn't blink. "It's not noise. It's a contractual execution notice." The room shifted. Meredith Porter, board chair, leaned forward. "Is this a legal issue?" Lisa adjusted her glasses. "Potentially. I need to call a recess to review a clause referenced in the document." "Clause?" Brittany scoffed. "Lisa, we archived the old paperwork years ago. Legal was modernizing everything." "We archived templates," Lisa said, voice flat, "not governing documents. This clause predates our digital archive." Meredith leaned in. "How old?" Lisa flipped the page. 2009. Arthur Hyan's original charter, reviewed and reaffirmed during our 2018 compliance cycle. Brittany laughed. "Okay, so what? Ben found some dusty footnote and thinks he's staging a coup?" Nobody laughed with her. Lisa closed the folder. "The document isn't a complaint. It's a formal execution notice triggered by his termination." Section 4.8. Operational Reversion Agreement. Meredith frowned. Is that enforceable? Lisa stood. I need 30 minutes. Brittany tried to laugh it off. Look, this is what happens when you keep legacy people too long. He's being dramatic. Silence. Seriously, Brittany added, looking around. You're not buying this? One board member cleared his throat. I think clarity would benefit everyone. They stood. Chairs scraped. Lisa moved quickly. Brittany leaned against the table. This is exactly why I made the change. Dusty clauses holding us back. But even she looked uncertain now. The room felt different when they reconvened. Colder. Brittany came back 5 minutes late, iced matcha in hand, trying to look calm. The cracks were showing. Lisa returned with 2 additional folders, one red, one black, and the expression of someone who'd just found a loaded gun. Meredith wasted no time. Lisa, your findings? Lisa remained standing. The clause in Section 4.8 is valid. Reaffirmed in 2018, certified by Arthur Hyann and 2 prior board members. One of the older board members nodded slowly, clearly trying to remember if he'd signed something at a board retreat. Lisa continued. The clause prevents unilateral termination of key personnel without full board review and severance compliance. If violated, it triggers a 72-hour reversion period. We're 60 hours in. Brittany sat up straight. Come on. That clause was symbolic. You said so yourself. I said it was obscure, Lisa corrected. Not symbolic. It's enforceable. Severance terms weren't met. The board wasn't notified in writing. The founder's trust holds final authority. Brittany stood. You're saying this is real? Lisa opened the black folder. Inside was the clause, signed by Arthur and initialed by me. Dated, stamped, notarized. It's not just real, Lisa said. It's active. If we don't find a reversal within 12 hours, operational control reverts to the appointee listed in the trust. Brittany scoffed. Arthur hasn't updated that trust in years. You think he even remembers what he wrote? Doesn't matter, Lisa said. The trust has legal standing. Brittany paced. No. This is insane. You can't undo a CEO because someone found old paperwork. The gray-haired board member spoke. You fired someone with direct connection to the founder and assumed the paperwork wouldn't matter. That's not old paperwork. That's a binding clause. Brittany turned on Lisa. Why didn't you flag this sooner? Lisa stayed calm. I emailed you a week before his termination suggesting a legacy document audit. You replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Beat of silence. Meredith exhaled slowly. So what happens when the clock runs out? Lisa opened the red folder. The appointee listed in the trust assumes operational oversight, interim or otherwise, until the board restructures the charter. The founder's written override is required for changes. Arthur can't even hold a pen, Brittany muttered. Then you have a problem, Lisa said. Brittany looked desperate. We can contest it. Emergency injunction. You'd need standing, Lisa said. The clause explicitly removes CEO power in triggering events. Then call Ben. He's not answering. Then you call him. Lisa closed her folder. This is what happens when you don't read the documents you inherit. By 3 p.m., they decided to inform Arthur. His health had declined, but he was still lucid in short bursts, still legally competent. Lisa went. Brittany wasn't allowed in the room. Lisa returned after 5 p.m. The board was waiting. She placed her notes on the table. The founder has been informed. He was shown the document, the timestamps, the trust directive. Meredith asked quietly, Did he understand? Lisa nodded. Fully. When shown the appointee's name, he smiled. Brittany's voice cracked. This is insane. You're letting someone from the 1990s reset a $500 million company because of what? Loyalty? I built this place up. Lisa turned slowly. No, Brittany. You inherited a seat. He built the table. The room went silent. There were 9 hours left on the clock. And the name in Arthur's trust wasn't Brittany. It was mine. It was 7:58 a.m. Thursday when the board reconvened. Same room, same table. Every person had the posture of someone waiting for a verdict. Nobody spoke. The legal team was already seated, documents lined up like evidence. Meredith tapped her pen against a leather portfolio. 3 soft ticks, then pause. 3 more, the only sound in a frozen room. At exactly 8 a.m., the courier arrived. Security led him in. He walked the length of the table and handed an envelope to Meredith. She opened it without ceremony. Inside, notarized cover letter, 12-page activation packet, a drive containing clause validation and compliance audit trail. Lisa read the first lines and nodded once. It's done. Brittany stood by the window, laughing nervously. So, what now? He just walks in wearing a cape? The door opened. I stepped in. No theatrics. Black suit, same Haiyan badge I'd worn for 20 years clipped to my lapel. A single flash drive in my hand. I walked to the head of the table and sat down. Nobody spoke. Not because they were told to, because the gravity had shifted back to where it belonged. Meredith looked at the table. Lawrence Crane has assumed operational oversight under Section 4.8 of the Operational Reversion Agreement. Effective immediately. She turned to Lisa. Legal concurrence? Lisa nodded. Clause executed. Chain of command has shifted. Meredith faced the room. Motion to acknowledge and enter this change into governance record. All in favor? Hands rose, one by one. All opposed? Nobody moved. Brittany cleared her throat. You can't be serious. You're just handing him the keys? This is my company. I didn't look at her. I connected my flash drive to the port and waited as the screen came to life. A company-wide message populated the dashboard. Title, Steady Hands, Clear Direction. Below it, a simple paragraph about continuity, integrity, and respect for the values Arthur built on. It didn't need my name. Everyone already knew. Security entered the room without a word. Don't bother, Brittany said, voice brittle. I'll go. She turned to me. You really think you won? I finally looked up. Not smug, not cruel, just calm. The way the sun rises exactly when it's supposed to. Brittany, I said quietly, nepotism works fine until it hits the charter. She froze. I stood, walked over, and handed her a single sheet of paper. Her separation agreement. Already prepared, already signed by the board. As she took it, I leaned in slightly. Just enough for her to hear. Experience doesn't expire, I said. It compounds. She stared at the paper for a long moment, then walked out. The door closed behind her. I turned back to the board. First order of business. I'm reinstating the 3 senior staff members terminated without cause last week. VP of Vendor Relations, Payroll Systems Manager, Onboarding Director. HR will process reinstatements by end of day. Meredith nodded. Noted. Second, Austin Reed, Taylor Morgan, and Harper Sinclair are relieved of their positions effective immediately. We'll conduct a proper search for qualified replacements. Lisa made notes. Third, I want a full audit of all decisions made in the last 60 days. Vendor contracts, platform changes, personnel moves. Anything that wasn't run through proper channels gets reviewed. One board member spoke up. What about the rebrand initiative? Shelved. We're not Haiyan 2.0, we're Haiyan. Same company Arthur built. We just remember who we are now. Meredith looked around the table. Any objections? Silence. Then we're adjourned. Ben, welcome back. I didn't celebrate. I went to my old office, now stripped of Brittany's minimalist redesign, and started making calls. First call, our VP of Finance who'd been forced out. Tom, it's Ben. I need you back. Today if possible. He was quiet for a second. I heard what happened. Wasn't sure it was real. It's real. Contract's ready when you are. I'll be there in an hour. Second call, the payroll manager. Third call, the onboarding director. All 3 said yes within 5 minutes. By noon, the office felt different. People walked differently, talked differently, like someone had turned the oxygen back on. I got a text from one of the junior developers. Is it true? Are you actually back? I replied, never really left. That afternoon, I visited Arthur. He was in his study at home, thinner than I remembered, but his eyes were clear. Ben, he said, voice rough but steady. Arthur, heard you gave my granddaughter a civics lesson. Heard you smiled when they told you. He nodded slowly. Built that clause with you for a reason. Knew someday someone would forget what matters. Competence, loyalty, systems that work. The company's stable, I said. We'll keep it that way. I know you will. He paused. That's why I put your name in the trust. We sat in silence for a minute. Not awkward. Just 2 people who'd built something together and watched it almost fall apart. Thank you, I said finally. Don't thank me. You earned it. 20 years of earning it. I left his house and drove back to the office, pulled into my old parking spot. Brittany had reassigned it to Austin, but I was taking it back. Walked through the lobby. People nodded. A few smiled. One person from accounting actually said, "Welcome home." I took the elevator to the 5th floor and sat down at my desk. Same chair, same view of the city I'd had for 20 years. But everything was different now. I'd been fired at 7:59 a.m. on a Tuesday. By 8 o'clock a.m. on Thursday, I owned the company. Not because I wanted revenge, because Arthur had built protections into the foundation that couldn't be erased by privilege and arrogance. Because experience doesn't expire, it compounds, and I'd just spent 72 hours proving it.